The market district of Outpost Kira 7 was always crowded during the evening cycle. Commander Hana moved through the pressed bodies with practiced ease, her hand resting on her plasma pistol. She had walked this route 1,000 times in the past 2 years. The sounds of alien merchants hawking their goods in a dozen different languages filled the air. The smell of exotic foods mixed with the metallic tongue of the station's recycled atmosphere. Hana was Valorine, a member of one of the most disciplined military forces in the known galaxy. Her people valued order, precision, and duty above all else. She had earned her commander's rank through years of flawless service. Her superiors trusted her judgment completely. That trust was about to be tested in ways she could never have imagined. The explosion came without warning. One moment, Hana was checking a vendor's permit. The next, a massive blast tore through the western section of the market. The shockwave knocked her sideways into a metal support beam. Her ears rang. Smoke billowed through the corridors, thick and choking. Screams erupted from every direction as merchants and customers fled in panic. Hana's training took over immediately. She activated her comm unit and called for backup and medical teams. Her eyes scanned the chaos, looking for the source of the explosion or any additional threats. Through the swirling smoke, she saw figures running, stumbling, helping each other. Her hand moved to her weapon, ready but not drawn. Then she saw him. A figure emerged from the smoke, moving quickly toward the emergency exit. His hand reached inside his jacket. In that split second, Hana's mind processed the threat. Bomber, secondary device, going to detonate. Her weapon cleared its holster in one smooth motion. She aimed for center mass, just as she had been trained. Just as she had done hundreds of times on the range, the plasma bolt left her pistol with a sharp crack. It crossed the distance in a fraction of a second. The bright blue energy struck the figure square in the chest. Hana was already moving forward, weapon still raised, ready to fire again if needed. But the figure did not fall. He staggered, yes. His hand came away from his jacket, holding not a detonator, but a simple identification card. The smoke began to clear, pulled away by the station's emergency ventilation systems. Hana saw him clearly now. He was human. Young, probably in his mid-20s by human standards. His jacket had a smoking hole in the center, and through it she could see scorched skin. He looked down at his chest. Then he looked up at her. His expression was not one of pain or fear. It was confusion and concern. That actually stung a bit, he said, his voice steady. "You okay, Commander?" Hana's weapon did not waver, but her mind reeled. She had just shot someone with a military-grade plasma pistol at close range. The weapon was designed to superheat tissue, causing massive trauma and near-instant death to most species. She had seen training footage of what plasma weapons did to organic targets. It was not pretty, yet this human was standing. He was talking. He was asking if she was okay. "Do not move," Hana said, her voice tight. "Medical assistance is on the way." The human raised his hands slowly, carefully. "Really, I'm fine. It just burned through my jacket. This was my favorite jacket, too." He looked genuinely more upset about the clothing than the fact that he had been shot. Other security personnel arrived, weapons drawn. They surrounded the human, who kept his hands raised and visible. Hana's partner, a Valrine named Minho, came to her side. "Commander, are you injured?" Minho asked. "No," Hana said. "I am fine. But I shot this human. Center mass. Full charge." Minho looked at the human, then at Hana. "He does not look shot, Commander." "I know," Hana said quietly. The medical team arrived within minutes. The lead medic, an sectoid Thracian named Click 17, scanned the human with multiple devices. The human bore this with patience, still holding his ruined jacket. "I am Dr. Myray," the human said to Click 17. "Well, I work with Dr. Myray. I am Jiwan. I haul cargo for the medical center. I was just trying to show my ID during the evacuation. Click 17's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of confusion. Your cellular structure shows heat damage, but it is superficial, comparable to minor thermal burn. This should not be possible with plasma weapon at this range. Can I put my hands down now? G1 asked. They're getting tired. Hana nodded slowly. She holstered her weapon, but felt no relief. She had shot an innocent civilian, someone who was simply trying to follow evacuation procedures. The weight of that mistake pressed down on her like a physical thing. The medical team insisted on taking Ji-won to the infirmary for a complete examination. Hana found herself walking alongside them, unable to leave. She needed to understand what had happened. How he had survived Dot at the infirmary, Dr. Myray herself took over Ji-won's care. She was a kind-faced woman with graying hair, human like Ji-won. She examined the wound site carefully, then looked at Hana with an expression that was hard to read. The shot hit him? Dr. Myray asked. Yes, Hana said. Direct hit. Full power setting. Dr. Myray nodded slowly. He'll have a nasty burn for a few days. It'll heal. No permanent damage, but plasma weapons, Hana started, are designed for thinner-skinned species, Dr. Myray finished. Humans are built differently. Our skin is thicker. Our bodies can take more punishment. We come from a rough world. Hana watched as the doctor applied a silvery gel to Ji-won's chest. He winced slightly, but made no other sound of discomfort. Around the infirmary, other patients and staff were stealing glances at them. Word was already spreading through the station. A human had been shot with a plasma weapon and walked away. I must file a report, Hana said, though part of her wanted to delay that moment as long as possible. This incident will be investigated. I know, Ji-won said. He smiled at her, which seemed insane given the circumstances. I don't blame you, Commander. You were doing your job. There was an explosion. Lots of smoke. I should have kept my hands visible. This is partly my fault, too. His forgiveness somehow made Hana feel worse, not better. In Valrine culture, accepting responsibility for mistakes was paramount. She had made a critical error in judgment. An innocent being had been harmed, even if not seriously. That he showed her kindness in return felt undeserved. I am sorry, Hana said formally. I will accept whatever judgment comes from this. Ji-won's smile faded into something more serious. Listen, Commander. I'm okay, really, but I think we both need to be careful about what happens next. The station is already on edge with everything going on between our peoples. This could make things worse if we're not smart about it. He was right. Hana knew he was right. The Valrine Empire and human settlements had been in tense negotiations over territorial boundaries for months. An incident like this could be used as propaganda by either side. It could hurt the fragile peace. As Hana left the infirmary to file a report, she felt the eyes of everyone watching her. Word had spread incredibly fast. By morning, everyone on the station would know that Commander Hana had shot a human civilian, and that the human had barely noticed. What Hana did not know yet was that the explosion had been no accident. She did not know that forces were moving in the shadows, watching her mistake with great interest. She did not know that her plasma bolt had set in motion events that would change everything she thought she knew about humans, about duty, and about what it meant to do the right thing. All she knew was that she had shot Ji-won, and somehow, impossibly, he had survived. The administrative hearing began 3 days after the incident. Hana sat at a metal table in a cold, gray room while 3 senior officers reviewed her case. She had answered every question with complete honesty. She had provided all her scanner data, her body cam footage, and her written report. She had left nothing out. The officer seemed confused more than angry. The footage clearly showed the explosion, the smoke, and Ji-won's hand moving toward his jacket. By standard protocol, Hana's response had been appropriate, but the outcome had been completely unexpected. A plasma weapon should have killed him. Instead, he had a burn that was already healing. "You are placed on administrative leave pending further investigation," the lead officer said. "You are confined to the station. You will surrender your weapon and your security clearance until this matter is resolved." Hana accepted these terms without argument. It was standard procedure. She knew she was lucky they had not arrested her outright. The only reason they had not was because Ji-won himself had filed a statement saying the shooting was a reasonable mistake under the circumstances. He had asked that no charges be filed against her. That kindness made the guilt worse. Hana spent her first day of leave in her small quarters, staring at the ceiling. She kept replaying the moment in her mind. The smoke, the figure, the shot. She had been so certain, so sure that she was stopping a threat. But she had been wrong. On the second day, she could not stand the confinement anymore. She needed to understand. She went to the station's public data archives and began researching human biology. What she found shocked her. Humans came from a planet called Earth, a world that seemed designed to kill anything living on it. The gravity was higher than the galactic standard. The atmosphere contained 21% oxygen, which was toxic to many species. The weather patterns were violent and unpredictable. Earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes. The planet threw everything it had at the creatures living on it, and humans had not just survived. They had thrived. Hana read about human bone density, which was nearly 3 times the galactic average. She read about the redundant organ systems. They had 2 kidneys when one would do. They could survive with partial liver function. They could lose a lung and still breathe. Their blood clotted quickly. Their immune systems attacked foreign invaders with frightening efficiency. But what struck Hana most was the human capacity for pain tolerance. Humans produced natural chemicals in their bodies that blocked pain signals. In moments of extreme stress, their bodies flooded with adrenaline, making them temporarily stronger and faster. They could push through injuries that would incapacitate other species. There were stories in the database. Stories that Hana had dismissed as exaggeration before. Now she was not so sure. A human construction worker who had fallen 3 stories and walked away with broken bones, but still conscious. A human soldier who had continued fighting after losing an arm. A human explorer who had crawled for miles with a shattered leg to reach help. These were not isolated incidents. They were patterns. Human durability was not a myth. It was reality. Hana looked up from her reading to find that hours had passed. Her mind was racing. If humans were this resilient, why did the galactic community treat them as just another fragile species? Why had nobody warned her? She found her answer in a restricted file that her security clearance could still access. A diplomatic memo from the Valrine Empire's intelligence division. It warned that humans downplayed their physical capabilities to avoid alarming other species. They wanted to be seen as peaceful traders and explorers, not as potential threats. The memo recommended playing along with this fiction. It suggested that acknowledging human durability might create unnecessary tension. Better to let them maintain their harmless image while the Empire assessed whether they posed a real military threat. Hana closed the file with disgust. Politics, always politics. The truth had been suppressed for diplomatic convenience, and now she was paying the price for that deception. She needed to talk to someone. She needed to apologize properly, not just through official statements. She needed to face Ji-won directly. She found him at the cargo docks, supervising the unloading of medical supplies. He wore a simple work uniform and moved with easy confidence. When he saw her approaching, he waved off his coworkers and met her halfway. "Commander Hana," he said with a slight nod. "Feeling better?" "I came to apologize," Hana said formally. "My written statement was inadequate. I need to say this to you directly. I made a mistake. I harmed you. In my culture, such failures carry heavy weight. I accept whatever consequences you think are appropriate." Jiwan studied her for a long moment. Then he gestured to a nearby bench. They sat down together, watching cargo haulers move containers back and forth. "You know what I think?" Jiwan said finally. "I think you and I are both victims here." "I do not understand," Hana said. "You were trained to respond to threats. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. The problem is that nobody told you the truth about humans. They let you believe we were fragile. They let you believe your weapon would drop any threat instantly." Jiwan shook his head. "That's not your fault. That's a failure of the people who trained you." "But I still shot you," Hana said. "Yeah, you did. And it hurt. But I've had worse. Once I dropped a cargo container on my foot. That hurt more, honestly." He smiled, trying to lighten the mood. "Look, Commander, I get it. You feel guilty. But guilt without action is just self-pity. If you really want to make this right, help me figure out who set off that bomb." Hana looked at him in surprise. "You think the explosion was intentional?" "I know it was," Jiwan said. "I've been hauling cargo on this station for 3 years. I know every merchant in that market. Nobody was moving explosives. Nobody had reason to. That bomb was planted by someone who wanted to cause chaos." "That is a serious accusation," Hana said. "I know. That's why I need help investigating it. And you need something to do besides sit in your quarters feeling bad." Jiwan stood up. "What do you say, Commander? Want to figure out who really started this mess?" Hana considered this. She was on administrative leave, which meant she had no official authority. But it also meant she had time. And Jiwan was right about one thing. Sitting alone with her guilt was accomplishing nothing. "Yes," she said. "I will help you." Over the next few days, Hana and Jiwan worked together quietly. They reviewed security footage from before the explosion. They interviewed merchants who had been in the market. They tracked down maintenance workers who had been near the blast site. Slowly, a pattern emerged. Several people reported seeing strangers in the area hours before the explosion. Strangers who wore station worker uniforms, but whom nobody recognized. Strangers who had access to areas they should not have been in. Hana used her remaining security contacts to pull up visitor logs. She found anomalies. People who had checked into the station, but whose identification did not quite match their biometric scans. Professional forgeries, but forgeries nonetheless. "These are not random criminals," Hana said, studying the data. "This was a coordinated operation. Someone planned this attack carefully. But why?" Jiwan asked. "What did they gain?" "All they did was blow up some market stalls and get me shot." "Perhaps getting you shot was the point," Hana said slowly. "Perhaps they wanted an incident between humans and Valrine. Perhaps they wanted to damage our fragile peace." Jiwan went very still. "You think someone is trying to start a conflict between our peoples?" "I think someone benefits from our conflict," Hana said. "I need to find out who. But finding out who would prove more dangerous than either of them expected. Because the conspiracy went deeper than a simple market bombing. And the people behind it were watching them very carefully, waiting to see how much they would discover, waiting to decide if Hana and Jiwan needed to be silenced permanently. Hana's investigation hit a wall on the 5th day. The forged identities led nowhere. The people who had planted the bomb had vanished completely, leaving no trail. Whoever had planned this attack knew how to cover their tracks. Professionally, she sat in a small cafe in the station's civilian sector, staring at her datapad in frustration. Jiwan arrived with 2 cups of something hot and bitter that humans called coffee. He set one in front of her and dropped into the opposite chair. "Any luck?" he asked. "None," Hana admitted. "Every lead ends in nothing. These people are ghosts." Jiwan sipped his coffee and grimaced. "Station coffee is terrible. You know what would help? More information about what happened to me. About why I didn't die when you shot me." "I have been researching human biology," Hana said. "The databases have some information, but much of it seems incomplete or deliberately vague." "That's because we don't advertise how tough we are," Jiwan said. "It makes other species nervous. But maybe it's time for some honesty. If we're going to figure out this conspiracy, people need to understand what humans actually are." "What do you mean?" Hana asked. Ji-1 leaned back in his chair. "I mean, we need to run official tests. Scientific documentation. Let Dr. Myray and her team examine humans properly, not just treat our injuries. Show the station authorities what we're actually capable of. That way, when we find who's behind this, they can't spin the narrative." Hana considered this. It made sense strategically, but it also felt invasive. Would other humans agree to this? "I'll talk to them," Jiwan said. "There are 37 humans living on this station permanently. Most of them are worried right now. They know that me surviving your shot has made people scared. If we can turn that fear into understanding, it might help." 2 days later, Dr. Myray had assembled a team of scientists from multiple species to conduct a series of tests. Jiwan had volunteered to be the primary subject. 5 other humans agreed to participate as well, including a cargo worker named Doyun, who was Jiwan's closest friend. Hana attended the tests as an observer. She needed to understand. She needed to see the truth for herself. The first tests were simple physical examinations. Bone density scans, muscle composition analysis, organ mapping. The scientists murmured among themselves as the results came back. Human bones were incredibly dense, layered with minerals that made them resistant to breaking. Human muscles were packed with more fibers than equivalent tissue in other species. Their organs had redundancies that seemed excessive, but made sense from a survival perspective. Then came the more difficult tests. Dr. Myray explained each one carefully to the volunteers before beginning. Pain threshold testing, healing rate measurement, stress response analysis. All non-invasive, all carefully monitored. Hana watched as Jiwan had his arm placed in a device that applied gradually increasing pressure. The scientists wanted to know at what point he would feel pain. The pressure climbed higher and higher. Jiwan's expression remained calm until the device reached a level that would have broken the arm of most species. Only then did he wince slightly. "That's uncomfortable," he said. "But it's not unbearable." The scientists looked at each other in amazement. They released the pressure and moved on to the next test. For the healing rate test, Dr. Myray made a small, controlled incision on Jiwan's forearm. Nothing deep, just enough to draw. Blood. She took samples at regular intervals to measure how quickly the wound closed. The results showed that human blood clotted 3 times faster than the galactic average. The wound began visibly closing within hours. But the stress response test was what truly shocked everyone. The test was simple. Jiwan stood on a platform while the scientists created a simulated emergency around him. Alarms blared. Lights flashed. Recorded sounds of explosions played at high volume. They monitored his body's response. Hana watched the biometric readings on the displays. Jiwan's heart rate increased dramatically. His body released a flood of chemicals into his bloodstream. His pupils dilated. His muscles tensed. According to the readings, his strength had temporarily increased by nearly 40%. His reaction speed had doubled. His pain reception had decreased significantly. "This is the adrenaline response," Dr. Myray explained to the gathered scientists. "In moments of extreme danger, a human body essentially overclocks itself. They become temporarily stronger, faster, and more resistant to injury. This is an automatic survival mechanism." "How long can they maintain this state?" asked one of the alien scientists, a Valrine like Hannah. "Usually only a few minutes," Dr. Myray said. "But in life-or-death situations, humans have been known to sustain elevated adrenaline for much longer. There are documented cases of humans performing incredible feats of strength during emergencies. The tests continued for hours. By the end, the gathered scientists had compiled a report that fundamentally challenged the galactic community's understanding of humans. They were not fragile explorers who had gotten lucky. They were survivors from a death world, carrying that heritage in every cell of their bodies. That evening, Hannah and Jiwan sat together in the observation deck, watching ships come and go through the station's docking ports. The test results had been filed with Station Command. Soon, everyone would know the truth about human durability. "Do you regret this?" Hannah asked. "Revealing so much about your species?" Jiwan shrugged. "Maybe, but secrets have a way of causing more problems than they solve. At least now, people will know the truth instead of making up scary stories." "Some will still make up scary stories," Hannah said. "Fear is not always rational." "True," Jiwan admitted. "But you know what I learned today? I learned that even though my body can take a lot of damage, I'm still just a person. I still feel pain. I still get scared. I still bleed. The tests showed that I'm tougher than most species, but they also showed that I'm not invincible." Hannah nodded slowly. She had seen that during the tests. Yes, humans were remarkably durable. But they were not monsters. They were not unstoppable. They simply had different strengths and weaknesses than other species. "Thank you for trusting me to observe," Hannah said. "I know I am the last person who should have been there." "Actually, I think you're exactly the person who should have been there," Jiwan said. "You needed to understand what happened. Why I survived. Now you know. It wasn't luck. It wasn't armor. It's just how humans are built." Hannah's communicator buzzed. She checked the message, and her expression darkened. "It is from my commanding officer. The tribunal has reviewed the new information. They are dropping all charges against me. The shooting has been ruled a justified response under the circumstances, with no permanent harm done." "That's good news," Jiwan said. "Is it?" Hannah asked bitterly. "I shot an innocent person. The fact that he survived does not erase my mistake." "No, it doesn't," Jiwan agreed. "But it means you can move forward. You can do better next time. You can help make sure other Valrine officers know the truth about humans so this doesn't happen again." Before Hannah could respond, Jiwan's communicator buzzed as well. He checked it, and his expression changed to something serious. "It's Doyun," he said. "He says he found something. Something about the bombing. He wants to meet us tonight in the lower cargo levels." "That area is mostly automated," Hannah said. "Few people go there after the evening shift." "Exactly," Jiwan said. "He said he wants to meet somewhere private. He thinks he found evidence of who planted the bomb, but he's not sure who on the station can be trusted." Hannah stood up. Despite being cleared of charges, she still had no official authority. But she had her training and her experience. "We should go carefully. If Doyan is right about this conspiracy, then the people behind it will not want to be exposed." "Agreed," Jiwan said. "But we need to know the truth." They made their way down to the lower cargo levels as the station shifted into its night cycle. The corridors grew quieter. The lighting dimmed to energy-saving levels. They found the cargo bay that Doyan had specified in his message. The bay was dark and silent. Containers stacked high around them created shadows and hiding places. Hannah's instincts screamed warning, but she pushed forward. They needed answers. Doyan? Jiwan called out. We're here. For a moment, nothing. Then movement in the shadows. But it was not Doyan who emerged. It was three figures in combat armor, weapons drawn and pointed directly at Hana and Jiwan. They had walked into a trap. The three armored figures moved forward with military precision. Their weapons were not standard station security equipment. These were combat rifles, designed to kill efficiently. Hana recognized the make immediately. Talmer Consortium military hardware. Do not move, the lead figure said, voice distorted by a helmet speaker. You have been asking too many questions. That ends now. Hannah's mind raced through options. She was unarmed, having surrendered her weapon during administrative leave. Jiwan had no combat training. They were cornered in a cargo bay with no clear exits. The situation looked hopeless. Where is Doyan? Jiwan asked, his voice steady despite the weapons pointed at him. Your friend is restrained in another location, the lead figure said. He will be released once you two are dealt with, assuming he stays quiet about what he found. What did he find? Hannah asked, playing for time. Does it matter? You will not live to tell anyone. The lead figure raised his rifle. The Talmer Consortium sends its regards. Everything happened very fast after that G1 moved before the assassin could fire. He lunged forward, impossibly quick, and grabbed the rifle barrel. He twisted hard, yanking it out of the surprised attacker's grip. The weapon clattered across the floor. The other two assassins opened fire immediately. Hana threw herself sideways behind a cargo container as plasma bolts seared through the air where she had been standing. She heard impacts, heard Jiwan grunt in pain, but when she looked back, he was still standing, still fighting. One of the plasma bolts had hit him in the shoulder. His shirt was smoking. The skin beneath was burned and angry red. But he did not stop. He swung the stolen rifle like a club, smashing it into the first assassin's helmet. The helmet cracked. The assassin went down hard. The other two adjusted their tactics immediately. They stopped aiming for Jiwan and turned their weapons toward Hana. If they could not kill the human quickly, they would use his companion as leverage. Hana did not give them the chance. 2 years of security work on this station had taught her every corner of its layout. She ran deeper into the cargo bay, using the containers as cover. Plasma bolts struck the metal around her, superheating it. She felt the heat on her face, but kept moving. Behind her, she heard the sounds of fighting. Jiwan was buying her time, keeping the assassins focused on him. She needed to use that time wisely. She needed to find a weapon or call for help or do something other than hide. She found Doyan tied to a support beam in the back corner of the cargo bay. His face was bruised, but his eyes were alert. She quickly cut his restraints with a piece of sharp metal from a broken container. Are you armed? She whispered. No, Doyan said, rubbing his wrists. But I am angry. That counts for something. They moved back toward the fight together. The scene had changed. One assassin was down and not moving. Another was locked in hand-to-hand combat with Jiwan. The third had finally landed a solid hit, shooting Jiwan in the leg. The human limped badly but refused to fall. Doyun did not hesitate. He charged the assassin who had shot Jiwan, hitting him from the side with his full body weight. They went down together in a tangle of limbs. Doyan was not a trained fighter, but he was angry and desperate, and that made him dangerous. Hana grabbed one of the fallen rifles and checked its charge. Half full. Enough. She aimed carefully and fired at the assassin fighting Jiwan. The shot took him in the leg, exactly as she intended. He collapsed with a scream. The third assassin threw Doyon off and scrambled for his weapon. Hannah shot the weapon, melting it into useless slag. The assassin froze, hands raised. "Do not move," Hannah said, using the same words he had said to them minutes earlier. "This ends now." Station security arrived moments later, alerted by the sound of weapons fire in the cargo bay. They found Hannah holding the assassins at gunpoint, while Jiwan sat against a cargo container, breathing hard. Blood soaked his shirt from multiple wounds. His leg was badly burned, but he was conscious and alert. Dr. Myray arrived with the security team. She immediately began treating Jiwan's injuries, muttering about foolish young men who get themselves shot. But Hannah could see the pride in her eyes. Jiwan had protected Hannah and himself against professional killers. He had survived injuries that would have killed most species twice over. The lead assassin, helmet cracked and pride damaged, refused to speak at first. But Doyon had already downloaded the evidence he had found onto a secure drive. He handed it to Hannah with shaking hands. "I found it in the maintenance logs," Doyon explained. "Someone authorized access to the market's environmental systems 3 hours before the explosion. The authorization code belonged to the station commander's office." Hannah felt ice in her stomach. Commander Kyung-min authorized the access? "Either him or someone using his codes," Doyon said. "I also found financial records. Large payments from Talmer Consortium accounts to several shell companies. Those companies have been buying influence on this station for months. The Talmer want war between humans and Valrine," Hannah said slowly, understanding clicking into place. "They benefit if we fight each other. The territories we are arguing over border their space. If we weaken each other, the Talmer can expand unopposed." "That explosion was meant to kill people," Jiwan said from his position against the container. His voice was pained but clear. "They wanted casualties. They wanted to create an incident that could not be forgiven. But all they got was me getting shot, and I survived, so they had to try to kill us before we figured out the truth. The security team took the assassins away. They also took the evidence drive, promising to investigate immediately." But Hannah saw the worry in their eyes. If the station commander was compromised, then who could they trust? Over the next 2 days, the situation developed rapidly. Doyon's evidence was verified and expanded. More financial records were found. More connections to the Talmer Consortium were uncovered. The conspiracy went deeper than anyone had imagined. But Commander Kung-min, when confronted, refused to cooperate. He sealed himself in his command center with several loyal officers. He claimed that the evidence was fabricated, that this was a human plot to take over the station. He ordered the arrest of all humans on the station, calling them security threats. The station split into factions overnight. Some security personnel believed Kyung-min and moved to arrest the human residents. Others believed the evidence and refused those orders. Tensions rose to the breaking point. The human community, all 37 of them, gathered in the medical center under Dr. Murray's protection. Hannah found herself there as well, unable to follow orders she knew were unjust. Ji-won, still recovering from his injuries, sat in a hospital bed coordinating with other humans via communicator. "We need to get that evidence off the station," Ji-won said. "We need to send it to both Earth and Valrine Command. Let them sort out the politics. But if Kyung-min controls communications, we cannot send anything." "The main communication array is in the command center," Hannah said. "But there is a backup system in the engineering section. It has limited range, but it can reach the relay stations in this sector. From there, messages can be forwarded to Earth and Valrine space. Can you access it?" Dr. Myray asked. Hannah considered. "Not alone. The engineering section will be guarded. But with help, perhaps." Ji-won tried to stand. His wounded leg gave out immediately. Dr. Myray pushed him back down with surprising force for her age. You are not going anywhere, she said firmly. You have already been shot twice this week. That is twice too many. Then I will go, Doyon said. I know the engineering section. I deliver cargo there regularly. You will need backup, Hana said. Someone who knows station security protocols. We will all go, said another human, a woman named Yunji, who worked in station maintenance. All of us who are able. This affects all humanity on this station. We should all take the risk together. Dr. Myray looked at her small community gathered in the medical center. 37 humans against a station of thousands. The odds were impossible, but the determination in their eyes was absolute. Then we do this carefully, Dr. Myray said. We do this smart, and we do not start a fight we cannot finish. Hannah felt something shift in her chest. These humans were not warriors. They were cargo workers and doctors and maintenance staff. But they were willing to risk everything for the truth. They reminded her of why she had joined the Valrine military in the first place, to protect those who could not protect themselves, and to stand for what was right. I will help you, Hana said formally, not as a Valrine commander, but as someone who believes in justice. Let us send this evidence where it needs to go. The plan was simple but dangerous. A small group would make their way to the engineering section, while the rest created distractions throughout the station. They would upload the evidence to the backup communications array and transmit it to the relay stations before station security could stop them. Hana led the main group consisting of Doyon, Yunji, and 3 other humans whose names she was still learning. They moved through the maintenance corridors, avoiding the main pathways where security patrols were concentrated. The humans moved quietly, following Hana's lead without question. They reached the engineering section to find it guarded by 4 security officers. These were not corrupted by the conspiracy. They were simply following orders from their commander. Hana recognized 2 of them from her own unit. Stand down, she called out as they approached. I am Commander Hana. I need access to the communications array. Commander, you are on administrative leave, one of the guards said. He looked uncomfortable, but held his position. Commander Kyung-min has ordered that no one enters engineering without his direct authorization. Commander Kyung-min is compromised, Hana said. I have evidence of his involvement in the market bombing. I need to transmit that evidence to higher authorities. The guards looked at each other uncertainly. They knew Hana. They trusted her. But they also had their orders. I am sorry, Commander, the lead guard said. But we cannot let you pass without. The explosion that rocked the station cut off his words. One of the distraction teams had set off a controlled blast in the lower cargo levels, far from any people, but loud enough to trigger every alarm on the station. Red lights flashed. Sirens wailed. The guards' communicators erupted with urgent messages, demanding their attention elsewhere. In the confusion, Hana made her move. She pushed past the guards, not fighting them, but simply moving with authority. The humans followed immediately. By the time the guards realized what had happened, they were already inside the engineering section. Seal the door, Hana ordered. Yunji worked the controls with practiced efficiency. The heavy blast door slid closed with a solid thunk. It would not hold forever, but it would buy them time. Doyon rushed to the backup communications console. His fingers flew across the interface, navigating security protocols that he should not have known. Hana suspected he had been doing more than just delivering cargo for the past 3 years. I am in, Doyon said. Uploading the evidence now. Where do we send it? Valrine Imperial Command, Military Frequency, Alpha 77, Hana said. And Earth Coalition Diplomatic Corps, their public emergency channel. Both at once? Doyon asked. Both at once, Hana confirmed. This affects both our peoples. Both should receive the truth simultaneously. The upload began. Progress bars crawled across the screen with agonizing slowness. Outside the sealed door, Hana could hear voices. Security was gathering. They were trying to override the lock. How long? Hana asked. 3 minutes, Doyon said. We may not have 3 minutes, Yunji said, watching the door controls. They are cutting through the override. I can slow them down, but not stop them. The humans formed a defensive line between the door and Doyon at the console. They had no weapons. Most had no combat training. But they stood firm, ready to protect the upload with their bodies, if necessary. Hana stood with them. She thought about her training, about duty and honor, and following orders. She thought about shooting Jiwan in the market. She thought about the truth and the lies that had been told to keep the peace. Sometimes, she realized, keeping the peace required breaking it first. Sometimes justice meant disobedience. The door began to slide open. Security officers pushed through, weapons drawn. Leading them was Commander Kyung-min himself, his face twisted with anger. Traitor, he spat at Hana. You have violated orders. You have compromised station security. You will be arrested and tried for conspiracy. The only conspirator here is you, Hana said calmly. The evidence is already being transmitted. Both our governments will know the truth within minutes. Your Talmor masters cannot protect you now. Kyung-min's expression changed from anger to calculation. He raised his weapon, pointing it not at Hana, but at the console where Doyon worked. Stop the transmission now, or I will destroy the console, Kyung-min said. 90% uploaded, Doyon said quietly. Almost there. Stop it now. Kyung-min shouted. He fired at the console. The plasma bolt struck the metal housing, sending sparks flying. Doyon threw himself sideways, rolling away from the explosion. The console smoked and sparked, but the upload continued. The backup system had redundant power supplies. Kyung-min turned his weapon toward Doyon. Hana moved without thinking. She tackled the station commander, driving him to the ground. His weapon skidded away across the floor. They struggled, but Hana had youth and training on her side. She pinned him down. 100%, Doyon announced. Transmission complete to both recipients. The fighting stopped. Everyone in the room stood frozen, processing what had just happened. The evidence was out. It could not be taken back. The truth was free. Kyung-min stopped struggling beneath Hana. He laughed bitterly. You have doomed the station. Do you understand that? The Talmor will not accept this betrayal lightly. They will come for all of us. Let them come, said a new voice from the doorway. Everyone turned. Standing there in full military dress uniform was a Valrine officer that Hana recognized from Fleet Command briefings. Commander Taiwan, captain of the Imperial cruiser Righteous Sword. Behind him stood more officers and armed Marines. Commander Kyung-min, Taiwan said formally. You are under arrest for conspiracy, treason, and the murder of 17 civilians in the market bombing. Your communications were being monitored by Imperial intelligence for the past 3 days. We have been waiting for you to reveal your co-conspirators. Imperial Marines moved forward and took Kyung-min into custody. The corrupted security officers were arrested as well. The ones who had simply been following orders were released with warnings. Taiwan approached Hana, who stood at attention despite her disheveled appearance. He looked at her for a long moment, then extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting that was becoming more common in mixed company. Well done, Commander Hana, he said. Your initiative and courage have prevented a war. The Empire owes you a debt. Before Hana could respond, another group entered the engineering section. These were humans in Earth Coalition naval uniforms, led by a stern-faced woman with captain's insignia. Captain Jinnah, Earth Coalition Navy, she announced. We received your transmission. My ship was conducting exercises 2 sectors away. We came as fast as we could. She looked at the gathered humans, many of them showing signs of stress and fear. Her expression softened slightly. You people did good. Real good. Command is going to want to talk to all of you. But first, let's make sure you're all safe. Over the next several hours, the situation stabilized. More ships arrived from both the Valrine Empire and Earth Coalition. The Talmor Consortium agents on the station were rounded up. The conspiracy was exposed completely, reaching into both governments, but not deep enough to cause lasting damage. Hannah found Jiwan in the medical center, still recovering from his injuries. Dr. Myray had him on strict bed rest, though he was clearly itching to get up and see what was happening. We did it, Hannah said, sitting in the chair beside his bed. The evidence was transmitted. The conspiracy is exposed. War has been prevented. Any word on the Talmor response? Jiwan asked. They are denying everything, of course. But the evidence is strong. Both Earth and Valrine are demanding investigations and reparations. The consortium's influence has been badly damaged. Hannah paused. I have been reinstated to full duty. Commander Taiwan has offered me a position in the joint task force that will be investigating this matter further. Congratulations, Jiwan said. You deserve it. I also recommended you for a civilian commendation, Hannah said, for your role in exposing the conspiracy and for protecting me during the ambush. Without your courage and your durability, we would not have succeeded. Jiwan smiled slightly. My durability. That's a polite way of saying I am hard to kill. Yes, Hannah agreed. But I have learned that durability is not just about surviving damage. It is about continuing to move forward despite the damage. It is about refusing to give up even when the situation seems hopeless. That is true for individuals and for civilizations. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Outside the medical center, the station was returning to normal operations. The damage from the bombing was being repaired. The fear and tension were slowly easing. Humans and Valrine worked side by side, proof that cooperation was possible. I have been thinking, Jiwan said, about what happens next. The truth about human durability is out now. Everyone knows we can take more damage than most species. That is going to change how people see us. Perhaps, Hannah said, but I think the more important truth is also out. Humans are not monsters or threats. You are people who value loyalty and courage and doing what is right, even when it is difficult. That is what I saw during this crisis. That is what I will remember. 3 months later, Hannah stood on the observation deck of Outpost Kira 7, watching the stars. The station had been officially designated as a joint human-Valrine diplomatic outpost. She was now the security chief, working alongside both species to maintain peace and order. Jiwan joined her at the window. His injuries had healed completely, leaving only faint scars. He carried 2 cups of that terrible station coffee, offering one to her. She had learned to tolerate it, almost. Do you remember 3 months ago? Jiwan asked. When you shot me in the market? I will never forget it, Hannah said quietly. I was thinking about that today, Jiwan said. About how one mistake, one moment of confusion, almost started a war. But instead, it ended up preventing one. Funny how things work out sometimes. The shot did not prevent the war, Hannah said. The choices we made afterward did that. We chose to seek truth instead of revenge. We chose to work together instead of letting fear divide us. True, Jiwan admitted. He raised his coffee cup in a mock toast. To making good choices after bad mistakes. Hannah touched her cup to his. To understanding and cooperation between our peoples. They drank the terrible coffee and watched the ships come and go through the station's docking ports. Humans and Valrine and a dozen other species, all living and working together. Not perfect, not without problems, but trying, always trying to do better. Hannah thought about duty and honor and the weight of mistakes. She thought about resilience and forgiveness and the courage to move forward. She had shot an innocent person, and the galaxy had almost gone to war because of it. But because that innocent person had chosen kindness over anger, because he had chosen to help her seek the truth, disaster had been averted. Sometimes the most stunning thing a person could do was not to survive being shot. It was to survive and then choose to build something better with the person who shot them. That was the real measure of strength. That was the real meaning of humanity, whether human or Valrine or any other species. That was the future worth fighting for.